lords and ladies, I'm Audrey, and I'm going to tell you how knight's armor was made. First, I went to the clothing to show you how my tunic was made. Then, I went to the blacksmith for my chain mail. Then, I bought gauntlets from the blacksmith again. Gauntlets are a piece of armor for the hand of a knight. Now, here's my shield. It was made by the blacksmith. Why I chose this design? Because it resembled realism in medieval times. I have another shield, in fact. My other shield has a crescent. That means the second child of the family. My shield was used to protect people in the war. I went back to the blacksmith for my sword. I told him to make a silver, gold, and bronze sword. The terms of a knight are more like what a knight uses. So it's a helmet, plate armor, shield, knight's sword, lance horse, chainmail, and coat of arms. The helmet is a flat-topped type of helmet that hides the face of the knight. The plate armor is a solid steel type of helmet enveloping the face, the entire head of the knight, often worn with chainmail. The shield is used to distinguish friend from foe, painted with identifying symbols. Foe means enemy, and sometimes people still use this today. Now we're on the knight's sword. The knight's sword is a little bit obvious. It means a weapon used by mounted warriors. Now we're on the lance of horse. It means for transportation and attack. Chainmail is worn underneath the plate armor for extra protection. The last two terms, the coat of arms, which is over there. It's a representation of a knight's visual and affiliation. The knight's duties are a little bit of what you think. The knight's duty under the feudal service includes military service, loyalty, and various forms of support. Knights were supposed to fight for the lords in wars, tournaments, escorting services, and guarding castles. The responsibility was to fight on behalf of their lord in times of war. They were expected to protect the weak and vulnerable, act with honor, integrity, chivalry, and ensure the safety of others. This is all I have for today. Thank you for your time. Now we're going to pass it on to Emil.
Hi, my name is Emil, and I'm going to tell you facts about knights. But first, I'm going to tell you about one of the most famous knights. His name was Bertrand de Goucelin. He was a French knight who fought during the 100-Year War against the English. He played an important role in the French victory at Castellon in 1453. And here's a picture of him. Now, if you could pass it around so everybody can see him. Oh, and most knights were required to be at 21 years old. And knights began training as children and knew a lot about weapons and horsemanship. What was a knight's duty? A knight's duty within the feudal system included military service, loyalty, and various forms of support. Knights served their lords in wars, tournaments, and escorting services, and guarding castles. Their responsibility was to fight on behalf of their lord in times of war. Knights were expected to protect the weak and vulnerable, act with honor, integrity, chivalry, and ensure the safety of others. And I'm going to tell you about the shield. The shield is used to distinguish friend from foe, painted with identifying symbols. As you can see on my shield, you see a dragon. The dragon means strength, faithfulness, and protection. The E on top of the dragon means the firstborn in the family. Knights wore chainmail or plate armor, often under a padded cloak called a hauberk. Knights were elite soldiers who fought on horseback for noblemen, the church, or their country. That was it for me, and now let's move on to Judah.
Hi, my name is Judah. I'm going to be talking to you about a famous knight. William Marshall was an English knight who served under several kings, including Richard the Lionheart and King John. He was considered one of the greatest knights of all time, known for his bravery and skill on the battlefield. Good night, get married. They could not get married into the lower class than of their own social class. Another one is knights could not get married with people in a higher status unless their lord arranged it to form an alliance. Yes, medieval knights could get married, but they had to follow those rules. Most knights were required to be at least 21 years old. Knights were elite soldiers who fought on horseback for noblemen, the church, or their country. Knights began training as children and knew a lot about weapons and horsemanship. Knights wore chainmail and cloak called a hauberk. Knights were expected to follow the code of chivalry, which included being honest and courageous and protective of the weak. Helmet. Helmets is a metal plate that covers their face. Chest plate. Chest plates are made out of metal. It is supposed to protect the person's chest. Swords. Swords are a thing that is to defend their body and also block other objects. Shield. This shield was made to block swords and block other objects, including the mace. Chandelier. Chandeliers are made to light up castles and rooms. That's the one that I made in a sponge up there. There were different social classes in the medieval times. Kings and queens had the highest class. They were rich. The next is the bishop, the nobles, and then knights. Peasants were the lowest class. They were poor. That's it. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Jason, and I'm going to talk about fashion. Everyone loved wearing straw hats to keep the sun off their head in the summer. Even nobles wore them, but they were more fancy. They would wear long pointy shoes and hats. In 1366, the king tried to outlaw them, and peasants could not afford nice clothes, so the girls would try to make them flower wreaths. In the 14th century, doctors were not allowed to wear the color red. They wore green instead, and later wore black. A servant would wear two different colors split in half. Priests would not wear the same outfit as another priest. A lot of people did not wear shoes, so they wore socks and stockings with leather soles. Clothing was basically the same for everyone except rich people, which they had better material and it was more decorated. Everyone loved sheep wool. The easiest and cheapest wool to get was either black, white, or gray. For those with a deeper colored pocket, wool was available. Wool was ideal for cold areas. Nobility liked wearing clothes. Nobility and loved wearing clothes, and they wore dyed cloth. Most people did not take a bath, except royals. They took one twice a day, but people would take one once a week. People never washed their clothes, and knights were not allowed to wear jewelry, jewelry and silver rings. Your turn.
Hi, my name is Riley. Today I'll be talking about medieval fashion. My costume is dressed like royalty. I'm wearing a gown. Royalty men wore tunics, sleeves, and leggings for the lower body. Commoners peasants wore simple outfits. Jewelry they wore gold and silver. Monks and priests wore brown. It was long with a hood. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Sophie from the Gage Group, and I'm going to be talking to you about why archers were important in the Middle Ages. Archers were important in the Middle Ages because they could attack enemies from a distance with the bows and arrows, causing a lot of damage. They were an important part of the army. Now I'm going to be telling you some facts about medieval archers. Medieval archers liked to wear decorative bracers. Medieval archers often shot barefoot. Their bows were very large. Now here's a picture to pass it around. Their bows were called longbows. They were usually around 7 feet tall. And I'm going to be talking to you about the board game Nine was. This is what the game would look like. It's a little bit like tic-tac-toe. It's a lot of fun for older children and adults. There are 24 playable points. With the board, there should be 9 black pieces and 9 white pieces, usually in the same shape of counters. Now I'm going to be telling you some facts. It's also known as the game of Go. It's thousands of years old and also one of the oldest games in history. Usually monks and priests would play it when they were bored. It was most played in the 14th century. It was also played by soldiers in the American Revolutionary War. People of medieval times learned about it through trade routes. Now I'm also going to be talking to you about checkers. Here are some facts. It's also known as draughts, and draughts means to move, which is what you do with your pieces. Women and peasants usually played it. Historians believe checkers came before chess. Now I'm going to be giving you a brief explanation on how to play. Checkers is played by 2 people. He or she will move their piece 1 time. You can only move your piece diagonal. Your goal is to get your opponent's piece. You get their piece by hopping over them like this. Now, you can also get 2 points at a time by doing this. Now, if you get to the end, you can flip the piece over. The objective of the game is to get all your opponent's pieces. Now I'm going to be talking to you about the board game checkers. 2 players or teams compete against one another using coins or discs on the tabletop board. Each person shows 5 coins up the board in each turn, trying to get them to fall between the lines. Here's a picture of the game board, and I'll pass it around. That's all I have. Thank you for your time.
My name is Jaden, and I will be talking about knucklebone. Knucklebone, also known as scratch jacks, jack, stone, or inks. In a game of dexterity, played with a number of small objects that are thrown up, caught, and multiplied in a variety of manners. I will also be talking about jousting. A joust was where 2 knights would charge each other while on horseback and try to knock off the other knight. Knights wore a suit of armor with a shield to protect their bodies during tournaments. I will also be talking about chess. Chess is a game of strategy. Now I will be telling you how to play and how the pieces move. This is a rook. Rooks can either move straight or sideways. They can't move diagonal. And rooks represent a castle. This is a knight. Knights can only move in L's. It looks like a horse, so it would be called a horse, but it's called a knight. This is a bishop. Bishops can only move diagonal. Bishops represent somebody in a church. This is a queen. The queen can move any space around the whole board. This is a king. A king can only move 1 space in any direction. This is a pawn. And I will be telling you what the pawn represents back then. In the medieval times, the pawns and chess represent serfs or workers who were considered no more than lay down words. Then these are the extra queens. So if you get your pawn to the other side, you can take your queen and you can put it over there. Now I'll be telling you facts about chess. The largest chess game possible is 5,949 moves Chess is required school subject in Armands. Number 3. The game was taken from India to Persia, where it was named Shaitan. And now I will give, and this is a picture. Pass it around. No, it's your turn.
Hi, my name is Preston. Here today I am talking to you about medieval archery. In archery, there were many types of bows that were used. Today, there are 3 modern types of bows, and there are 2 known medieval bows. The medieval bows are the longbow and the crossbow. The modern bows are the compound bow, the recurve bow, and the crossbow. This is a compound bow that we use here for the AIE archery team. I have made multiple things in sponge. He has one of them on right now. This is a crossbow. Archery has been around for 5,000 years and has been a very big sport throughout its time. A compound bow uses gears to reduce the amount of tension in the bow. A recurve bow is like a more compact version of a longbow. A longbow could be 7 to 6 feet tall and was very powerful. It could shoot thousands of feet. The crossbow is more like a firearm of anything. A crossbow is more automated and more used modernly. Today, we mainly use these for sport and hunting, but back then they would use them for warfare. During warfare, they would hold the people who were using longbows and ballistas on the castle walls or in the part of the castle that has like a little window, but you can fire a bow out of it, but you can't get hit. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Noah, and I'm going to be talking to you about jousting. Jousting is a very dangerous sport, and injuries and even death were not uncommon. The knights collided with each other at high speeds, and even with armor and helmets. Injuries could be severe, including broken bones, concussions, and internal injuries. Deaths were not uncommon, and a notable example from 1379 was a jousting accident involving the second Earl of Salisbury, who killed his own son during a tournament. As the Middle Ages progressed, the fighting at a joust became more ritual. Jousting is still a sport in Maryland and in other parts of the world. It is the oldest sport in the world. In jousting, participants charge at full gallop on horseback. They use long lances with fine tips. They score points by spearing rams. Jousting has been a part of Maryland culture since early colonial times. It became even more popular after the Civil War. Jousting is the official state sport of Maryland. Jousting is physically demanding. It involves wearing heavy armor and riding a horse at high speeds. It requires a lot of skill and training. Jousting lances can weigh between 1 and 15 pounds. Lances are made from 2 parts: a main body and a metal tip. The main body is made from a hard timber like beech or ash. The tip can be solid or bendable. In competitive jousting, lances are blunted to reduce the chance of injury. And this is the lance that I made this one right here. And that's all I have for today, and thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Kara from the Castles Group, and I'll be talking to you about the features of the castle. Moat. A moat was a defensive ditch dug around the castle. It would be filled with water and the waste of the people who lived there. Bricks. Keep. The keep was a large tower and the last place of defense in the castle. Arrow slits. These slits cut into the walls allowed archers to fire at enemies but be safe from return fire. Gatehouse. The gatehouse was built at the gate to help reinforce the castle at its weakest point. It was its weakest point because of its wooden door, which was flammable. Battlements. Battlements were at the tops of the castle walls. Usually they were cut out or protected by the wall. Now I'll be talking to you about castle defense. During the Middle Ages, castles were often attacked by enemies, and war could last for months. The attackers had terrifying weapons, but soldiers under war fought back fiercely. Belfry. The belfry was a tall rolling tower that would allow soldiers to safely approach the castle. Catapult. A catapult could throw huge boulders onto the wall of the castle. These boulders could break down the walls and destroy buildings inside the castle. They could also launch items that were on fire. Battering ram. The battering ram was a huge heavy log that was used to smash down doors. Now I'll be talking to you about what it was like to live in a castle. Living in a castle was noisy and hectic, even though it was built primarily as a home. Castles were dark, large stone structures and were usually cold. Castles were primarily built in England and Wales after 1066 and cemented the new system of feudalism, where people fought and wanted nobles in charge for loyalty and part of land. That's all I have for now. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Wade and I will talk to you about that Both that were made ago. They were built on L and RESA. Boat arctic is filled with water. Not every that or at a boat, a drop part and where a sea and sea. With a drop part and right and that with boat at a saw with boat and right and a saw that did not add a lot of life because a more little that at eat a drop from going in and out. At one time it was over one other shouted that is a it is a drop and the other made it at all and also today we go back and on to daily.
Hi, I'm Daly. I'm going to be teaching all some things about castle. The time period evolved in Middle Age expands by when used during this era in European history and basically warm people over imminent. Castles helped to keep the king and queen safe from war. There was law during that time, so it was called the Dark Ages. Castles helped keep order in society and keep control. Castles were first made of wood, mud, and mud, much like how ice and holds a gingerbread house together. Then they started using stones into a cooking item. The Windsor Castle is about 900 years old. Stairwell is torn apart because it's made harder for enemies to attack. There are 1,500 castles in England. Castles were always it had bad air circulation in the building. Now I'm also going to tell you about the best defense part of the castle, walls. Walls kept invaders out. Gatehouse. The gatehouse was the main entrance to the castle and was heavily fortified. A moat was a deep, wide ditch that surrounded the castle filled with water. A keep was the central building of which housed the lord and his people. Drawbridge. A drawbridge was a movable bridge that connected the castle or gatehouse to the outside. Mortal walls. multiples or small opening in the ceiling of the gatehouse that allowed the vendors to walk or going liquid on the house. So sorry how for you. But thank you for spending your time with me. Now let's pass on to you.
Hi, I'm Mia, and I will be telling you what did certain colors mean in medieval times. The color purple meant power and status, as it was hard to make. The color white meant purity and was usually worn by the people of the church. Black was associated with death and mourning. It was worn at funerals. Green was a color that was soothing, and scribes often kept emeralds and other green objects to rest their eyes. And also scribes would write on green tablets. I'm also going to be telling you about 3 types of castle styles. There were 3 major types of castle styles used in medieval times: the moat and bailey, the stone kept, and the contract castle. Some of the first styles became popular in Europe. Here's a picture to pass around. Can you pass this around? And also, here's some facts about castles. Castles were built to defend king and queen. Castles were usually surrounded by moats with drawbridges. Towers and turrets were perfect for guards to keep watch. The keep was the safest place to be. Castles were bustling and full of people. Knights would defend the castles. Castles had very beautiful gardens. The castle's great room was where people gathered to relax and spend time together. Women would sit there and do their sewing. Men would play games, rest, and talk with each other. Other entertainments were held in the great room. And also, how were castles used in defense and offense in battles? In medieval times, castles' defenses started as simple barriers surrounding settlements and villages. These were kind of made from wooden stakes. This kind of defense structures was easily breached, as they could be easily burned down by each army of invaders. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Levi, and I'll be talking to you about castles. Castles were blacksmiths were the primary people responsible for making weapons in the Middle Ages. Some techniques included forging. Forging means to make or shape a metal object by heating it in a fire or furnace and hammering it. Now I'll talk about casting. Here's a picture to pass around about forging. Casting means creating a metal object by transferring molten metal from a crucible into a mold. Stamping means the process of heating metal and then hammering it into a die. Now I'll talk about what machines they use. Some machines used are furnaces for heating metal, anvils and workbenches for shaping. And this is a picture of an anvil to pass around. Tongs for shaping hot metal, and various hammers, chisels, and other machines to cut, mold, and shape metal. The tools that blacksmiths made are axes, hammers, sickles, farm equipment, and cowbells, horseshoe, wagon tires, nails, and more. Blacksmithing requires physical strength and mental strength. Blacksmiths must be good problem solvers and may use mathematics, chemistry, and physics to produce quality products. And here's another picture to pass around. I'm done here and I'll pass it off to Carter.
My name is Carter, and I'm going to talk to you about the flail. The flail is a weapon that is a handle with a chain connected to a ball with spikes. To handle a flail, you constantly have it moving at a certain speed with your arm extended. If you spin it too slow, your enemy can counter your attack. If you do it too fast, you can lose control and it can hit you. Some advantages of the flail is it's lightweight, making it good to maneuver with. Disadvantages of a flail were they were really bad for defense. Some facts about the flail were they were 5 pounds and they were 21 inches long. Usually it would attach to their legs so it could swing freely. It was very effective against chainmail, which is a thing they wore under their armor to prevent from slashing. It was harder to handle than most weapons. Another thing I love to talk about are longbows. Longbows are around 6 to 7 feet long. They are able to shoot up to 1,000 feet away. They were used at far distances like at castle walls. Another weapon is our daggers. Daggers are short bladed weapons used by assassins and or in rituals. This is my shield. Shields are usually made of wood, metal, or leather. Shields are made to block attacks commonly held in their hand. My shield, the dragon represents on my shield bravery and strength. That's all. I'll be passing it on to Ms. Catherine.
Hello, my name is Braxton, and today I'm going to tell you about the battle axes and daggers. The battle axe was used in the Middle Ages and the Viking Ages. The spike on the battle axe is used to pierce armor or to pull the opponent off of their horse, or to break through enemy lines. They could be swung with one hand or two hands. They were more effective than swords. One of the oldest tools used by men, they were used to cut off the head of a horse or a man. They could be used to put a dent in armor. Daggers are short and sharp. They were used for camp chores, jousting tournaments, and the battlefield. Some were decorated and some were plain. Some even had gems. This is the dagger kit that I made in sponge, and the grip was made with tape wrapped around. This is my battle axe that I made, and the blade was made with cardboard and then painted with silver. Thank you for your time. I'll pass it on to Olivia.
Hi, my name is Olivia, and I would be talking about the Bayou Tapestry, the mace, and the lance, and I would also be talking about siege towers. The mace was a blunt weapon or type of club used for close sport during the medieval period. Maces could be made from bronze, iron, steel, silver, or gold. The first records of medieval maces being used are around the 10th century. Mace heads usually had an additional spike added to them. And this is what a mace looks like.
That's not a mace.
Wrong one. This is what the mace looks like. Siege towers. Siege towers were medieval engines constructed to protect assassins when approaching the walls. They were rectangular wheeled structures that allowed for archers.
Siege towers were heavy, cumbersome machines not designed for secrecy, but were parts of an all-out assault on a weakened castle. They were made of wood and constructed close to the medieval castle being attacked. The Bayeux Tapestry is an embroidered cloth nearly 229 feet long and 164 feet tall that shows the events leading up to the Norman conquest of England in 1066. It provides a visual narrative of the key players, battles, and cultural aspects of time. The tapestry features more than 70 scenes representing the Norman conquest. This picture shows knights jousting, and this is to pass around. The circles on my shield mean the fifth born. The sun is for decoration. Siege towers were made to get enemy soldiers close to a wall to protect the castle. It would protect them from enemy weapons like a ballista, a weapon that can fire large arrows or bullets. Siege towers were hard to make and took a lot of time. They were often covered with animal skin or iron to protect them from fire. Some were 100 feet high. My costume is like a peasant, and my crown is made out of flowers, pipe cleaners, and ribbon. Medieval lance was a cavalry weapon. Medieval lances were made out of wood with a metal head. The name lance comes from the French Latin word lancia, flat. Early medieval lances were essentially spears. Later medieval lances were adapted to be more specialized with thicker shafts. Medieval lances were commonly held underarm in a crouched position. This is what a lance looked like, and it was used for jousting. And that's all I have for you today.